the School Safety Enhancements Act of 2013 that's introduced by Senator Boxer, Senator Collins, Senator Blumenthal. I'd call it the bill. I've offered a substitute that I circulated on behalf of Senator Boxer and Senator Warner. If there are no objection to substitute, the S-146 is amended with the substitute offered by Senator Boxer and Senator Warner. It is open for further amendment. Senator Grassley.
Yeah. I believe that I'm going to offer an amendment, but I won't speak about the amendment now. But and I think I'll be able to vote for this bill, so I say a few words. I worked closely with Senator Boxer and Warner on this substitute. I thank them for agreeing to some changes that I requested. I also have this one amendment that I want to bring up. First, though, the substitute reduces the new authorization from the proposed $100 million a year to a more reasonable $40 million a year. All told, this is a $600 million reduction in the cost of the bill over the 10-year window. The Secure Our Schools program was authorized in the year 2000 following the Columbine tragedy. It authorizes funds supplemented by a 50-50 local match of funds to make security-related improvements to K through 12 schools. The original bill included a $30 million authorization, so this substitute provides a modest increase to $40 million, which is essentially adjustment for inflation during that period of time. Further, the substitute amendment retains the current 50-50 matching requirement to ensure that localities awarded funds under the program have a share in the program's success. The substitute amendment also made a change to the campus safety action portion of the original legislation. It removes the new authorization the previous version of the bill included. Instead of new spending, this version merely authorizes use of funds from the program under the Byrne Justice Assistant Grant Program. This change is necessary to give the dire fiscal situation of the federal government currently because of what we currently face. Finally, the substitute includes an amendment that I circulated increasing accountability and anti-fraud measures for the grant program. This is an amendment that I've added to a number of bills that have received bipartisan support, including the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. It is in response to the grant programs that have little oversight over the years. It is important to ensure that grantees awarded federal funds are careful with the taxpayers' dollars. I have one amendment that I will offer to address duplication and overlap that the Government Accountability Office found in the Justice Department grant programs. The amendment will ensure these dollars help the most communities possible, the largest number of communities possible. It ensures that the 3 grant writing agencies at the Justice Department coordinate prior to awarding grants. This was a recommendation of the Government Accountability Office to reduce duplication and overlap. I urge my colleagues to support that amendment when I offer it. The changes made in the substitute strengthen the bill, and my amendment will strengthen it further. Provided my amendment is adopted, I'm prepared to vote in support of this legislation to help communities that want to strengthen our school security.
I just asked the Senator, the amendment that you have is HEN 13204. Is that correct?
No. I got here OLL 13112. I hope this is it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was the.
Unless there's a lot of opposition, I think I'll just put a statement on the record. But if I got to convince people.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, I thought you would bring up HEN 13204, which I would accept as accountability and oversight.
that's in the substitute, my staff tells me.
It's already in the substitute? Okay. The OLL 13112, I understand, would mandate that before the Justice Department awards the Public Safety and Community Police a COPS grant, it must ensure that the applicant does not receive funding for the same purpose under another grant program. State and local law enforcement rely on public safety and community policing grants, gets life-saving equipment, provides necessary training. I understand to get the full funding they need to do the kind of training they need, they sometimes have to apply to multiple grant programs. In other words, they're not getting the same money for the same thing over and over again, but one grant might provide for one part of the training, another grant might provide another part of the training, and so on. I'm wondering, and I know what the senator does not want to have duplication. I don't either. Because we only got so much money. I wonder if the senator be willing to withhold this. It's going to be a while before I get to the floor. Let me see if, I won't do anything to try to block it and bring it up on the floor, but see if there's something that we could work on this to make sure. I just don't want to have a case where you have somebody applying for a grant, say a cross-training between the police and fire departments and others, or the EMS, and because they have to apply for 2 or 3 different grants to get everything they need in there, that they not be blocked.
Well, what I want to prevent is having an agency apply wherever they can for one purpose, but get it from 3 different sources. That limits the number of people that can benefit from the total dollars coming from Washington to various communities, and we have some evidence that has happened, and with a single purpose in mind.
I'm on the senator's side on that, but I'm just wondering, could withhold perhaps Senator Boxer, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Warner, yourself, and myself could look at this and craft it in such a way that we do what you want, but that we don't block the police, for example. Well, they respond to something, they probably also have EMS responding or fire responding, that they not be blocked from doing the training together.
If I agree with you, and if you understand that if we don't work something out, it's going to slow this whole thing down on the floor of the Senate, I'm willing to do that. But I hope, we've all been caught up in this argument, in this procedure, and then you get to the floor and you find out it's not quite as smooth as...
Well, but I think the senators know I do work with them.
Okay.
Senator Durbin?
I'm just trying to understand your number on its face. It's very reasonable, Senator Grassley, but what if a school district is looking for some help here and they want to cover 10 schools and they get a grant from one of these programs, covers half the schools? Are you suggesting that they can't go to another program to get the other half covered?
The answer to that is that we see it as an effort of people taking every opportunity they can to guarantee that they're going to get some money, and also to get more if they possibly can, so you don't spread out the dollars and help as many school districts as possible. That's a problem I see.
I would just assume that the awarding of the second grant would take into consideration whether completing the grant in one school district or giving it to another is the appropriate thing to do. So,
you see, what we're trying to do is facilitate communication within the Justice Department of these various programs. It's almost as simple, but you can't put this necessarily in language, but why don't you pick up the phone and talk to each other once in a while and find... Okay.
What kind of sense of tradition do you have? No, I can assure the senator, and he knows that I always keep my word, I will work with him on this, and if we're not able to get a conclusion, I will not
Okay.
Certainly, I'll let you get your amendment up.
We'll go ahead as you suggest, but I want everybody here to realize that this isn't some scheme Chuck Grassley thought up. This comes from the Government Accountability Office.
Noted.
I'm on your side. Okay, I want Senator Grassley, I'm on his side. I just want to make sure that we don't have, as we sometimes do, the unintended consequence.
Let's
Okay.
go ahead and vote the bill out, and I'll still vote for it, but I wasn't going to vote for it without this amendment being adopted, but based upon your good faith, I'll go ahead.
Senator Graham?
Sequestration is, there it goes.
It takes about a half-second delay once you hit it.
Does it have an accent?
There it is.
There it is,
There
sir.
we go. There we go. I just want to reinforce what Senator I don't care if it's a Grassley scheme. I like most of your schemes. But I'm in the same position as Senator Grassley. I had an amendment I was going to offer, but I'm working with Senator Boxer to dedicate some of this money to resource officers at schools. And she's very open-minded, but we'll do that on the floor. So I'm going to vote for her amendment with the understanding that we're going to try to flow some of this money into school resource officers where they can...
Yeah, what I propose doing is that we call the roll, but I know several senators have indicated to me, one call this weekend, they'd like to speak on some of these. I will stay here as long as anybody wants to speak on any of these matters, but if we could call the...
10 seconds before you call the roll.
all the time you want.
Well, just 10 seconds.
Go ahead.
This amendment was floated more than a week ago, so we didn't hear any objection during the last few days on it, so I thought it was ready to go. Let's go vote then.
There you go. Clerk, call the roll.
Mrs. Feinstein.
I have a proxy.
Mr. Schumer.
Aye.
Mr. Durbin. Mr. Whitehouse.
I have a proxy.
Ms. Klobuchar.
I have a proxy.
Mr. Franken. Mr. Coons. Mr. Blumenthal. Ms. Hirono. Mr. Grassley.
Aye.
Mr. Hatch.
Aye.
Mr. Sessions.
No by proxy.
Mr. Graham.
Aye.
Mr. Cornyn.
No by proxy.
Mr. Lee.
No.
Mr. Cruz. Mr. Flake.
No.
Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
The NRA supports this.
Now we're done.
Because they've talked about
Mr. Chairman.
putting,
I voted aye.
Mr. Chairman, the votes are 14 yeas,
support
4 nays.
Mr. That will be reported to the floor. Just